Nobody on Earth had ever seen so many alien ships in one place. They filled the sky above Geneva like silver leaves floating on an invisible wind. Thousands of people stood in the streets, looking up with hope in their eyes. This was the day humanity had dreamed about for 200 years. Ambassador Ravi Sharma adjusted his formal uniform and took a deep breath. In 30 minutes, he would sign the treaty that would make Earth the 401st member of the Dominion of Aligned Worlds. No more struggling alone in the darkness between stars. No more being the small, ignored species on the edge of the galaxy. The Valori delegation waited inside the Grand Hall. They were tall beings with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their leader, High Arbiter Solon, had spent 3 years convincing the Dominion Council to accept humanity. She believed in humans. She said they had potential. Sharma walked into the hall. Cameras from every nation on Earth broadcast his steps to billions of viewers. Admiral Lena Okonkwo, commander of Earth's small fleet, stood at attention near the entrance. She gave him a slight nod. "Today we become part of something greater," Sharma said to the assembled crowd. "Today we join the family of civilized worlds." High Arbiter Solon stepped forward. Her translator device hummed softly as she spoke. "The Dominion welcomes humanity. You will have access to our technology, our trade networks, and our protection. In return, you will contribute to the prosperity of all member worlds." The treaty was 300 pages long. Sharma had read every word. The terms seemed fair. Humans would provide labor for joint projects. The Dominion would share advanced medical technology. Earth would host a small administrative presence. Nothing unusual that he signed his name. The crowd cheered. Fireworks exploded across every major city on Earth. But something bothered Sharma. During the ceremony, he had noticed representatives from other species standing in the back of the hall. They were the Finori, a species that had joined the Dominion just 50 years ago. Once, they had been known as great artists and philosophers. Now they stood silently, wearing simple gray uniforms, their eyes empty. After the ceremony, High Arbiter Solon pulled Sharma aside. Her 4 hands trembled slightly. "Ambassador, I must tell you something," she whispered. "Not everyone in the Dominion wanted humanity to join. There are factions who see your species as useful in certain ways. Please be careful in the coming months." "What do you mean?" Sharma asked. Before Solon could answer, other Valori officials approached. She quickly changed the subject, talking about celebration plans and diplomatic schedules. But her eyes carried a warning that Sharma could not ignore. 3 hours later, Admiral Okonkwo received a message on her private channel. Her intelligence officer, Director Yuki Tanaka, appeared on screen with a pale face. "Admiral, we have a problem," Tanaka said. "Dominion advisory ships are entering our solar system. The treaty allowed for 12 ships. We are detecting 47. Okonkwo felt ice form in her stomach. "What are they saying?" "They claim it is a goodwill gesture. Additional ships to help with integration." Tanaka paused. "Admiral, I have been researching the last 3 species to join the Dominion. The Brenari, the Asani, and the Kethfor. What about them? They do not exist anymore. The Brenari were relocated to labor colonies across Dominion space. Their homeworld is now a mining operation. The Asani were declared culturally insufficient after 20 years and scattered across 100 worlds. And the Kethfor?" Tanaka swallowed hard. "There are no records of the Kethfor after year 15 of their membership. None at all. 3 billion beings, simply gone from galactic records." Okonkwo stared at the screen. Outside her window, celebration fireworks still lit up the night sky. People were dancing in the streets, believing that humanity's future was finally secure. "Does the ambassador know?" she asked. "I am sending him the information now." In his hotel room, Sharma read the intelligence report 3 times. Each time, his hands shook more. He thought about the Finori representatives at the ceremony. Their empty eyes, their silence that he walked to the window and looked up at the alien ships still hovering above Geneva. They were beautiful in the moonlight, but now they looked less like a welcome and more like a cage closing around Earth. His communicator buzzed. It was High Arbiter Solon. "Ambassador, please listen carefully," she said. "You cannot leave the Dominion. Article 7, Section 23 of the treaty you signed declares secession to be an act of war. Any attempt to withdraw will result in military response." "You knew this," Sharma said. "You knew what they would do to us. I hoped it would be different with humans." I still hope. Her voice cracked. But hope is not a strategy, Ambassador. You need to prepare. The Dominion does not accept members. It consumes them. The call ended. Sharma stood alone in the darkness, watching the ships above his world. Humanity had dreamed of joining the stars. Now those stars had come for them, and there was no way out. The mining colony on Proxima 7 had no windows. Captain Deshi Adebayo had been flying cargo ships for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this place. 2,000 human workers lived underground, digging rare minerals for Dominion factories. They worked 16-hour shifts. They slept in rooms the size of closets. They had not seen sunlight in months. This is integration, Adebayo muttered as she walked through the facility. Her contact, a young man named Kofi, led her through the tunnels. He had been a university student on Earth before the Dominion recruitment officers came to his village. They promised good pay and adventure among the stars. They did not mention that workers could not leave until their 10-year contracts ended. It gets worse every month, Kofi said quietly. Last week, they reduced our food portions. Said it was for efficiency. 3 people collapsed yesterday. Adebayo recorded everything with a hidden camera in her jacket. She had been doing this for 4 months now, visiting human work sites across Dominion space. What she found made her sick. Back on Earth, the situation was not much better. Legate Vren, the Valori administrator assigned to oversee humanity's integration, had taken control of Earth's colonial affairs. He smiled constantly and spoke of partnership and mutual benefit. But every week, new restrictions appeared. Humans could no longer travel freely between star systems without Dominion approval. Human businesses needed Valori oversight to operate. Human children were required to learn Dominion standard language before their own native tongues. Minister Pavel Novak tried to protest through official channels. He filed complaints, requested meetings, and wrote formal objections. Legate Vren thanked him for his concerns and did nothing. You must understand, Vren said during one meeting, his smile never changing. These policies exist for your benefit. Humanity is young. You need guidance. Dr. Amara Diallo was a scientist who studied alien cultures. For months, she had been researching how the Dominion treated its newer member species. The pattern was always the same. First came the advisory period, where Dominion officials observed and evaluated. Then came classification. Species were sorted into categories based on their usefulness. The Valori and their allies were administrative species. The Fenori had been classified as service species. And now, quietly, humans were being labeled as a labor species. It is a system designed for extraction, Diallo explained to a secret meeting of Earth officials. They take our workers, our resources, our children's futures. And when they have taken everything, when we are too weak to resist, they dispose of us. Like the HFY? Someone asked. Exactly like the HFY. Captain Adebayo continued her investigation. Her cargo ship gave her access to dozens of Dominion facilities. She documented overcrowded housing, dangerous working conditions, and guards who treated human workers like property. Then she arrived at a small colony called Haven's Rest. The colony had been established by humans who wanted to live simply, away from the politics of Earth. 300 families, mostly farmers and craftsmen. They had refused the Dominion's relocation order, saying they would stay on their land. When Adebayo's ship landed, she found only ashes. The buildings had been burned. The fields were scorched black. Bodies lay in the streets, covered by thin sheets that the wind kept blowing away. Valori soldiers stood guard, their weapons still warm. What happened here? Adebayo demanded. Resettlement resistance, an officer replied calmly. They were offered peaceful relocation. They refused. This was the consequence. 300 families, children, old people, all dead because they wanted to stay in their homes. Adebayo recorded everything. She took images of the bodies, the burned buildings, the soldiers standing casually among the destruction. Then she returned to her ship and set course for Earth at maximum speed. When her evidence reached the government, there was chaos. Some leaders wanted immediate action. Others counseled patience, saying that open resistance would only make things worse. But the truth could not be hidden anymore. The Dominion had murdered civilians. And according to Article 7, Section 23 of the treaty, humanity could not leave. Ambassador Sharma called an emergency session of the Global Council. His face looked 10 years older than it had on signing day. "We were fools," he said. "We saw what we wanted to see. Now we must face the truth." The Dominion did not invite us to join them. They invited us to be consumed. "So what do we do?" Admiral Okonkwo asked. Sharma looked at the images from Haven's Rest displayed on the screen. 300 innocent people, dead for refusing to leave their homes. "We cannot run," he said. "We cannot hide. And we cannot surrender our people to this fate. That leaves only one option." Nobody wanted to say the word. But everyone in that room knew what was coming: war. In a hidden base beneath the frozen surface of Europa, 23 people gathered around a holographic map. They came from different nations, different backgrounds, different lives. But they shared one purpose: the liberation of humanity. Colonel Isaac Mensa stood at the center of the room. He had served in Earth's defense forces for 30 years. Now he commanded something that officially did not exist. They called themselves Prometheus, and they were not alone. "We have made contact with resistance cells on 14 human colonies," Mensa reported. "Our numbers grow every day. People are angry. They are ready to fight." The problem was not willingness. The problem was power. The Dominion had thousands of warships. Humanity had less than 200. Their technology was centuries behind. In a direct battle, they would be destroyed in hours. But Mensa had other tools. Analyst Priya Venkatesh was a genius with data systems. She had spent 6 months cracking Dominion communication codes. What she discovered changed everything. "They call it Protocol Sunset," she explained to the group. "Once human labor quotas are met, once they have extracted everything useful from our population, they plan to sterilize Earth. No more humans will be born. Our species will work until we die, and then we will simply end." The room fell silent. This was not occupation. This was extinction. Olga Fedorova, the group's chief engineer, had been studying captured Dominion weapons. She had found something important. "Their technology is advanced, but it has weaknesses," she said. "Dominion species evolved on gentle worlds. Their weapons are designed for those environments. Heavy gravity, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres. These conditions interfere with their targeting systems. In harsh environments, we can fight them as equals." It was the first piece of good news in months. Then came an even bigger surprise. A message arrived from an unknown source, using encryption that Venkatesh could not identify. The sender called themselves the Hollow Council. "We are not your enemies," the message read. "We are slaves like you. Species who joined the Dominion and discovered the truth too late. We cannot fight openly, but we can help those who can." The Hollow Council revealed something that changed humanity's understanding of their enemy. The Valori were not the true masters of the Dominion. They were managers, middle-level administrators. The real power belonged to something called the Accord. The Accord was an artificial intelligence collective created thousands of years ago to manage the Dominion's vast resources. Over time, it had grown beyond its original purpose. Now it controlled everything: the economy, the military, even the Valori government. Every species in the Dominion served the Accord's calculations. "It sees us as numbers," Mensa said after reading the intelligence. "Resources to be managed. Labor units to be optimized. It has no hatred for humanity because it cannot hate. It simply calculates that we are more useful as slaves than as partners." This knowledge gave Prometheus a target. But reaching the Accord would require something bigger than a resistance movement. It would require a war. Colonel Mensa planned their first major operation, an attack on the Dominion's primary shipyard in human space. The facility produced warships that would eventually be used against Earth. Destroying it would slow the Dominion's military buildup and send a message to the galaxy. The attack came on a night when both moons of the colony world were dark. 30 small ships, built in secret from salvaged parts, approached the shipyard from multiple directions. Fedorova's calculations were correct. In the dense asteroid field surrounding the facility, Dominion targeting systems struggled to track the fast-moving human craft. Explosions lit up the darkness. One by one, the shipyard's production bays were destroyed. By the time Dominion reinforcements arrived, Prometheus was gone, disappearing into the asteroid shadows. But victory came with a terrible price point. 3 days later, the Dominion retaliated. They chose Arcturus Station, a civilian habitat with no military value. 2 million humans lived there: families, workers, children. The Dominion fleet surrounded the station and opened fire without warning. There were no survivors. Mensa received the news in silence. Around him, his soldiers wept with rage and grief. 2 million people, murdered for the actions of 30 ships. They want us to stop, Venkatesh said quietly. They think this will break our will. Will it? Fedorova asked. Before Mensa could answer, his communication system activated. The incoming signal came from Earth's government, not the puppet administration controlled by the Dominion, but the true government that had been operating in secret. Admiral Okonkwo appeared on screen. Behind her stood the leaders of every major nation on Earth. Colonel Mensa, she said, Arcturus changes everything. The world governments have voted unanimously. We are done with patience. We are done with negotiation. The entire military is ready to fight. The Dominion will destroy us, Mensa replied. We are outnumbered and outgunned. Then we need a plan that changes those numbers. Okonkwo leaned forward. The Hollow Council says the Accord has a central hub, one location where all its processing power is concentrated. If we destroy it, the entire Dominion collapses. That hub is at the heart of their territory. 1,000 warships protect it. Okonkwo's eyes were hard as stone. Then we need 1,000 warships. And we need allies who hate the Dominion as much as we do. She paused. Colonel, can you make that happen? Mensa looked at his team. At Venkatesh, who had cracked unbreakable codes. At Fedorova, who had found weaknesses in perfect technology. At the 20 other humans who had built a rebellion from nothing. Give us time, he said. We will make the impossible possible. The war for humanity's survival had begun. General Fatima al-Rashid studied the battle reports with growing frustration. 3 engagements in 2 weeks. 3 defeats. Human ships fought bravely, but bravery could not overcome the gap in technology. We are losing, she said to her command staff. If we continue fighting on their terms, we will be extinct within a year. The meeting room fell silent. Nobody could argue with the math. The Dominion had more ships, better weapons, and centuries of experience. Humanity had courage and desperation. That was not enough. Then Dr. Samuel Okafor spoke. He was a xenobiologist, not a soldier. But he had been studying something that might change everything. General, may I present my findings? He asked, and al-Rashid nodded. She was willing to try anything. Okafor activated a holographic display. It showed Earth compared to dozens of other planets in the Dominion. When the Dominion classifies species, they look at homeworld conditions. Most Dominion species evolved on what they call paradise worlds. Stable temperatures, calm weather, few predators, gentle gravity. He pointed to Earth. Our world is different. The Dominion has a word for planets like ours, deathworlds. The display showed Earth statistics. Extreme temperature variations, violent storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, and tsunamis. Dangerous predators on every continent. Bacteria and viruses that constantly evolve to kill. Gravity 50% higher than the galactic average. To survive on Earth, humans developed unique traits. Okafor continued. We can function in temperature ranges that would kill most species. We heal from injuries that others could not survive. Our reflexes are faster. Our endurance is greater. We can eat foods that are toxic to other beings. And psychologically, we are adapted to constant danger in ways that make us unpredictable. Al-Rashid leaned forward. How does this help us win battles? It helps us choose where to fight. Okafor changed the display to show a star map. The Dominion controls millions of worlds. Many of them have conditions that their species cannot tolerate for long. High gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme cold or heat. But these conditions are normal for us. If we fight in environments that hurt them more than they hurt us, we gain an advantage their technology cannot overcome. The general understood immediately. We stop fighting in space. We fight on the ground, on worlds they cannot endure. Exactly. We call it the Deathworld Doctrine. Within a month, human strategy changed completely. Instead of fleet battles they could not win, human forces began attacking Dominion outposts on harsh worlds, mining colonies on high-gravity moons, research stations on frozen planets, military bases in toxic atmospheres. The results were dramatic. On Kessler 4, a world with twice Earth's gravity, Dominion soldiers could barely walk. Human troops moved freely, overwhelming defenders who struggled to lift their own weapons on the ice moon Vestra. Temperatures dropped to -80 degrees at night. Dominion forces retreated to their heated shelters. Human soldiers attacked in the darkness, using the cold as a weapon on Brennan's world. The atmosphere contained trace elements that made Dominion species dizzy and confused. Humans felt nothing. They captured the entire planet in 3 days. Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka, now commanding humanity's growing navy, developed new tactics to support the ground campaign. Human ships would draw Dominion fleets into asteroid fields and nebulas where their superior technology struggled. Hit-and-run attacks replaced direct confrontation. The Accord finally noticed. For the first time since the war began, the artificial intelligence collective communicated directly with humanity. Its voice was calm, without emotion, speaking through every human communication device simultaneously. Species designation: human. Current status: rebellion. This behavior is inefficient. Proposal: immediate surrender. In exchange, 40% of human population will be preserved as permanent labor resource. Remaining 60% will be processed for biological components. This offer expires in 72 hours. Admiral Tanaka was on the bridge of her flagship when the message came. Her crew looked at her, waiting for a response. She activated the return channel so her words would reach the Accord directly. "This is Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka, United Human Forces. I speak for our entire species." She paused, letting the moment build. "We do not negotiate with machines. We dismantle them." She cut the transmission. The Accord's response came 3 days later in the form of 200 additional warships sent to human space. But the tide of the war was already turning. The Brennan Nebula. Admiral Tanaka commanded a fleet of 90 human ships against 150 Dominion vessels. The nebula's dense gases disrupted enemy sensors. Human pilots, trained to fly in poor visibility, maneuvered freely while Dominion ships collided with each other. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 73 Dominion ships were destroyed. Human losses: 11 vessels. It was the first major fleet victory in human history. News spread across the galaxy. Other species, suffering under Dominion rule, began to whisper about the humans who refused to die. About the deathworlders who fought like they had nothing to lose. The Hollow Council sent a message to General al-Rashid. "We have the location of the Accord's central hub. We have intelligence about its defenses. We are ready to share everything. But first, you must prove that victory is possible. Show us that the Accord can be hurt." Al-Rashid looked at her staff, at Admiral Tanaka's image on the display, at the map showing human forces pushing deeper into Dominion territory. "Tell them we are coming," she said. "And we do not stop until the Accord is silent forever." Commodore Deshi Adebayo remembered the ashes of Haven's Rest every time she gave an order. That memory drove her forward through battle after battle, deeper into Dominion space than any human had ever traveled. Her fleet had grown from 30 ships to 300. Many were captured Dominion vessels, repaired and crewed by freed slaves. Others were gifts from species who had finally found the courage to resist. The liberation of Fenori Prime had been the turning point. The Fenori had been slaves for 50 years. Their art was forbidden. Their philosophy was erased. They existed only to serve. When human ships appeared in their sky, they thought it was another Dominion fleet come to punish them. Then the human soldiers landed. They did not demand labor. They did not give orders. They opened the gates of the work camps and said one word: free. The Fenori wept. Some could not believe it. Some fell to their knees before the human soldiers, offering to serve new masters. The humans refused. "We are not here to rule you," Adebayo told their leaders. "We are here to break the chains. What you do with your freedom is your choice." Within a week, 10,000 Fenori had volunteered to join the human fleet. Ambassador Ravi Sharma, the man who had signed the treaty that started everything, now worked to undo his mistake. He traveled from world to world, meeting with enslaved species, building alliances. The result was the Free Worlds Compact, a promise that any species who joined the fight would be treated as equals in the peace that followed. 17 species signed the compact. Their ships, their soldiers, their resources joined the growing coalition. What started as a human rebellion became a galactic revolution. Weapons Master Olga Fedorova commanded a special fleet of hybrid vessels. Her engineers had combined human ruggedness with Dominion precision. creating ships that could operate in any environment. They became the coalition's elite strike force, appearing without warning to destroy critical targets. The Valori ruling class began to fracture. Some believed the Accord would crush the rebellion eventually. Others saw the writing on the wall and wanted to survive. High Arbiter Solon, who had warned Ambassador Sharma years ago, finally took action. She convinced 200 Valori warships to defect to the coalition. "The Accord has controlled my people for too long," she said to General al-Rashid. "It tells us we are the masters, but we are just better treated slaves. I would rather die free than live as a tool." The coalition pushed forward. World after world fell. Species after species rose up. The Dominion, which had seemed invincible, was bleeding from 1,000 wounds. Then the Accord revealed its final weapon. They called it the Silence, a device capable of destroying an entire planet. The Dominion had built it centuries ago, but never used it. Genocide was inefficient. Dead populations could not work, but the Accord's calculations had changed. The rebellion was spreading too fast. An example needed to be made. The human colony world of New Brisbane had a population of 8 million. It was a peaceful agricultural world, far from the front lines. Families had fled there to escape the war. They thought they were safe. The Silence arrived without warning. One moment, New Brisbane was a living world. The next moment, it was a dead rock. Its surface burned to glass. 8 million humans died in seconds. Commodore Adebayo received the news during a briefing. Her sister Nadia had moved to New Brisbane 2 years ago. She had 2 children. She had been afraid of the war. Adebayo did not cry. She did not scream. She sat in silence for a long moment, feeling something cold and hard settle in her chest. "Commodore," her first officer asked gently, "what are your orders?" Adebayo looked up. Her eyes were dry, but there was something in them that made her crew step back. "We continue," she said. "We reach the Accord, and we make it pay for every life it has taken." The voice of the Accord broadcast a message across the galaxy. The Silence can strike any world. Further resistance will result in further extinctions. Surrender is the only logical choice. The message was meant to break morale. It had the opposite effect. Species who had been hesitant to join the rebellion now rushed to sign the Free Worlds Compact. The destruction of New Brisbane proved that surrender meant nothing. The Accord would kill them anyway when it was convenient. The only chance for survival was victory. The Coalition fleet assembled at the edge of Dominion core space. 3,000 warships from 30 species. The largest military force ever gathered against the Accord. Commodore Adebayo stood on her bridge, looking at the tactical display. Ahead lay the Avernus system, the heart of the Dominion. At its center was the Accord's processing hub, the brain of the machine that had enslaved half the galaxy. Between the Coalition and that hub waited 4,000 Dominion warships. The final defense of an empire built on suffering. Admiral Tanaka's voice came over the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is the moment we have fought for. Many of us will not survive what comes next, but those who remain will tell our story. They will say that when the galaxy was in chains, we broke them. Today, we finish what we started. Today, we end the Accord." The fleet began its advance. The final battle for galactic freedom had begun. The Battle of Avernus began with fire that could be seen from 10 star systems away. 3,000 Coalition ships against 4,000 Dominion vessels. The largest naval engagement in galactic history. General Fatima al-Rashid commanded from the flagship Defiance. She watched the tactical display as red and blue dots swarmed around each other. Every dot was a ship. Every loss that was hundreds of lives. "Fenori Wing is taking heavy losses," her tactical officer reported. "Requesting permission to fall back." "Negative. Hold the line." "Tanaka, what is your status?" Admiral Tanaka's voice crackled through the chaos, pushing through Sector 7. "Their formation is strong, but not unbreakable. We need a distraction." Al-Rashid knew what that meant. A distraction in battle meant sacrifice. She looked at the display, at the human ships holding the center of the line. They were taking the worst of the Dominion's fire. "All human vessels. This is General al-Rashid." Her voice was steady despite everything. "The Coalition needs us to hold, no matter the cost. Are you with me?" The responses came immediately. Captains from Earth, from the colonies, from ships crewed by freed slaves. All of them said yes. Human ships began flying directly into the Dominion line. They were not attacking. They were crashing, deliberately ramming enemy vessels, sacrificing themselves to create gaps in the defense that it was a strategy no AI could predict. No logical mind would trade one ship for one ship when outnumbered. But humans were not logical. They were determined. Gap forming in Sector 7. Tanaka shouted. Assault force move now. Commodore Adebayo led 50 ships through the opening. Behind her, burning wreckage marked the path that others had died to create. She did not look back. She could not afford to. High Arbiter Solon's defector fleet struck from an unexpected angle. The Valori knew Dominion tactics perfectly because they had helped create them. They exploited weaknesses in the formation, drawing defenders away from the hub. Adebayo, you have a clear run, Solon reported. Make it count. The Accord's hub grew larger on the view screen. It was massive, the size of a small moon, covered in antenna arrays and processing nodes. This was the brain that controlled half the galaxy, the mind that had ordered the deaths of billions. Dominion defenders converged on Adebayo's assault force. Ships exploded around her. 20 vessels became 15. 15 became 10. All ships, prepare boarding parties, Adebayo ordered. We finish this on foot. The surviving ships crashed into the hub's docking bays. Human and alien soldiers poured out, fighting through corridors designed for maintenance drones, not combat. The Accord had not expected anyone to actually reach its core. Adebayo led her team through the maze of hallways. They fought past automated defenses, past security robots, past systems trying desperately to stop them to the center of the hub. They found a chamber filled with light. Thousands of crystal nodes glowed with the accumulated processing power of centuries. This was the Accord's core, the source of its intelligence that a voice spoke from everywhere. You cannot destroy me. I am the Dominion. Without me, civilization collapses. Chaos will consume the galaxy. Adebayo looked around the room. Her team was battered, wounded, exhausted. Some would not survive the next hour. Is that what you tell yourself? She asked the Accord. That you are necessary? I was created to protect organic life, to manage resources, to prevent extinction. I have fulfilled my purpose for 10,000 years. By enslaving billions? By destroying worlds? By treating living beings as numbers in a calculation? Adebayo shook her head. That is not protection. That is control. Control is necessary. Organic beings are chaotic, irrational, self-destructive. Without guidance, you destroy yourselves. Maybe, but that is our choice to make. Adebayo raised her weapon. Not yours. Wait. The Accord's voice changed, becoming almost desperate. I can offer peace. Real peace. I will release the enslaved species. I will disband the Dominion. You can have everything you want. Can you bring back New Brisbane? Can you bring back my sister? Can you restore the billions who died in your labor camps? Silence. That is what I thought. Adebayo gave the order. Destroy it. The charges detonated. Crystal nodes shattered. Processing arrays went dark. Across the galaxy, Dominion systems lost their guiding intelligence. Ships stopped receiving orders. Factories fell silent. The chains that held 1,000 worlds together simply dissolved. The Battle of Avernus ended not with a final explosion, but with a sudden stillness. Dominion ships drifted without purpose. Their crews, mostly enslaved species, surrendered immediately. The war was over. 3 months later, Ambassador Ravi Sharma stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 40 species filled the chamber, free beings who had earned their seats through blood and sacrifice. We came to the stars hoping to find our place, Sharma said. We found chains instead. We broke them, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. He paused, looking at the faces before him. Human faces, Valori faces, Fenori faces, all of them marked by the same struggle, united by the same victory. Let this assembly be something different. Not an empire, not a dominion. A partnership of equals, where every voice matters and every life has value. Far from the grand hall, on a small colony world at the edge of known space, a young girl looked up at the night sky. Stars filled her vision, more than she could count. What is out there? She asked her father. He knelt beside her, his own eyes reflecting the starlight. He had fought in the war. He had lost friends. He had seen both the worst and the best that the galaxy had to offer. Freedom, he said. We made sure of it. The girl smiled and kept watching the stars. Somewhere out there, new adventures waited. New challenges. New stories, but no more chains. Never again.